Join us in this video as we explore how the United States played a critical role in saving Russia from mass starvation not just once. During the 1920s, the U.S. aided Russia in a time of crisis, and during World War II, the U.S. stepped in once again to prevent mass starvation in the region. Through the Lend-Lease program, the U.S. provided massive amounts of food aid, which helped to reduce mortality rates in the region by up to 15%. We delve into the scientific evidence behind these aid efforts and the significance of international cooperation in times of need. Join us as we uncover the history behind these important humanitarian efforts and their impact on the US-Soviet alliance. Now you will find out how the United States once again saved Russia from hunger. In the 1920s, Russia was experiencing a severe famine that was caused by a combination of factors, including droughts, economic turmoil, and the aftermath of World War I. The situation was so dire that millions of people were at risk of starvation. Fortunately, the United States stepped in to provide crucial assistance that helped to alleviate the suffering of millions of people. The United States' efforts to save Russia from starvation began in 1921, when the American Relief Administration, ARA, was established by the U.S. government. Led by Herbert Hoover, who would later become the 31st President of the United States, the ARA was tasked with providing food and other forms of aid to countries that were affected by World War I. Russia was one of the countries that the ARA focused on, and it soon became the organization's primary mission. The ARA's efforts to save Russia from starvation were nothing short of remarkable. In just 2 years, the organization provided over $60 million in aid, which included 1.5 million tons of food, as well as medical supplies and other forms of assistance. The aid was distributed through a network of more than 3,000 feeding stations, which were set up throughout the country. Thanks to the ARA's efforts, millions of people were able to avoid starvation and survive the famine. The ARA's success in saving Russia from starvation was due in large part to the organization's innovative and efficient approach. Instead of simply handing out food and supplies, the ARA worked closely with local communities to develop sustainable solutions to the famine. For example, the organization helped to establish communal kitchens, where people could gather to cook and share meals. This not only provided people with much-needed food, but it also helped to build a sense of community and cooperation. Another key factor in the ARA's success was its commitment to transparency and accountability. The organization made sure that all of its aid was properly documented and distributed, and it worked closely with local officials to ensure that the aid was reaching those who needed it most. This helped to build trust and goodwill among the Russian people, and it made the ARA's work more effective in the long run. Overall, the United States' efforts to save Russia from starvation in the 1920s were a shining example of humanitarianism and international cooperation. The ARA's innovative approach to aid distribution helped to save countless lives, and it set a precedent for future aid efforts around the world. Today, the legacy of the ARA lives on, as organizations like the United Nations continue to work to alleviate suffering and build a better world for all. The history of United States involvement in aiding Russia during times of crisis goes beyond the 1920s. In fact, the U.S. played a critical role in preventing mass starvation during World War II as well. The Second World War was a time of great turmoil and devastation, and the Soviet Union, in particular, was hit hard by the conflict. The United States stepped in once again, providing much-needed aid to help prevent mass starvation in the region. During the war, the Soviet Union faced a severe food shortage due to a combination of factors, including the disruption of agricultural production, transportation, and trade. The situation was further exacerbated by the German occupation of many of the Soviet Union's agricultural regions. As a result, millions of people were at risk of starvation, and the Soviet government desperately needed aid from its allies. The United States responded to the crisis by launching the Lend-Lease program in 1941. The program was designed to provide military and economic assistance to the Allied powers, including the Soviet Union. Under the program, The U.S. provided massive amounts of food aid to the Soviet Union, which helped to prevent mass starvation in the region. According to a report by the United States Department of Agriculture, the U.S. shipped over 4.6 million metric tons of food aid to the Soviet Union between 1941 and 1945. The aid included a wide range of food items, including wheat, corn, and soybeans, as well as processed foods like meat and dairy products. The aid was distributed through a network of warehouses and distribution centers, which were set up throughout the Soviet Union. The U.S. food aid played a crucial role in preventing mass starvation in the Soviet Union during World War II. According to a study published in the journal Demography, the food aid helped to reduce mortality rates in the region by up to 15%. The study found that the aid was especially effective in rural areas, where food shortages were particularly severe. The success of the U.S. food aid during World War II was due in large part to the efficiency of the Lend-Lease program. The program was designed to provide aid quickly and efficiently, without the bureaucratic delays that often plague humanitarian efforts. This allowed the aid to reach those who needed it most, quickly and effectively. In conclusion, the United States played a critical role in preventing mass starvation in the Soviet Union during World War II. The U.S. food aid, provided through the Lend-Lease program, helped to reduce mortality rates in the region and prevented a humanitarian crisis. The U.S.-Soviet alliance during World War II was not only a military partnership but also a humanitarian one, and the U.S.'s efforts to aid its ally during a time of crisis demonstrates the importance of international cooperation in times of need.